Get ready for a story that will make you question everything. But first, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave a like so you don't miss any more shocking videos like this one. A sunny Thursday afternoon in downtown Sao Paulo. The movement on Oscar Freire Street was intense. Hurried executives walked the sidewalks while tourists admired the window displays of designer stores. Amidst all this hustle and bustle, Le Bernardin Sao Paulo stood majestically, one of the city's most exclusive restaurants, known for its refined French cuisine and millionaire clientele. The imposing facade of the establishment featured mirrored glass and a hand-carved mahogany door. Two impeccably dressed valets received luxury cars, Porsches, Mercedes, and BMWs alternated at the entrance. The click-clack of socialites' high heels echoed on the marble sidewalk, mixed with the muffled sounds of French and English conversations leaking from the air-conditioned interior. At 3:30 in the afternoon, a traditionally quieter time for high-end restaurants, a man of approximately 70 years slowly approached the main entrance. His steps were cautious, almost hesitant, as if every movement was calculated not to draw unnecessary attention. The man wore a simple white dress shirt, already somewhat yellowed with time, with a few loose threads at the collar. His trousers were made of cheap fabric, the kind sold in popular stores, with poorly pressed creases and some almost imperceptible stains. But what caught the most attention were his shoes, a pair of brown loafers that had seen better days, with cracked leather on the right side and a small, but visible, hole in the sole of his left foot. His gray hair was simply combed, using only water, and his calloused hands held a worn synthetic leather wallet. There was no watch on his wrist, no gold ring on his fingers, just the marks of time and honest work etched into his skin. When he pushed open the heavy mahogany door, the first to notice him was Ricardo, the 28-year-old maitre, a recent hospitality graduate from Anhembi Marumbai University. Ricardo had landed this dream job just 6 months ago and was determined to impress management with his ability to maintain the client standard. Ricardo's gaze swept over the old man from head to toe in less than 3 seconds. The expression on his face instantly changed from professional to visibly annoyed. He adjusted his bow tie and approached with quick steps, like someone about to solve a problem before it escalated. "Excuse me, sir," Ricardo said, forcing a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Can I help you with something? Perhaps you have the wrong address." The old man looked around, observing the details of the environment. The tables covered with imported linen tablecloths, the baccarat crystals shining under the indirect light, the original paintings by contemporary Brazilian artists decorating the walls. An elegant couple at the corner table shared a bottle of 1,500 Reis Chateau Margaux, while quietly discussing their latest financial market investments. "I'd like a table for lunch," the man replied in a calm, unhurried voice, slightly hoarse with age. Ricardo cleared his throat, looking nervously around. At the central table, Patricia Montenegro, wife of a well-known agribusiness entrepreneur, stopped cutting her grilled salmon to observe the scene. She discreetly nudged her husband, Enrique, who looked up from his smartphone to see what was happening. "Sir, look," Ricardo lowered his voice, trying to sound helpful. "Our restaurant has a somewhat specific menu. Dishes range between 200 and 400 reis. Perhaps you'd prefer something more suitable for your profile? There's a very good self-service restaurant 2 blocks from here, on Rua de Conciliação." The old man showed no irritation. He simply nodded politely and said, "I understand. Even so, I'd like to see the menu, if possible." The situation was drawing more attention than Ricardo would have liked. Marcella, the 26-year-old sommelier, pretended to organize wine glasses, but in reality, she was listening to every word. 2 waiters stopped their activities to discreetly observe. From the corner of the room, a middle-aged man wearing a 3,000 Reis Armani suit quietly commented to his companion, "Look at that! What an awkward situation! The young man is trying to be polite, but it's obvious the gentleman can't afford to be here." The woman, sporting a genuine pearl necklace, whispered back, "Poor thing! He must be confused. Sometimes elderly people get lost. My grandfather used to do that before he went to the nursing home." Ricardo took a deep breath, trying to maintain the professional composure he had learned in customer service courses. "I'll check our availability," he said, heading to the reservation system, though he knew perfectly well that there were at least 12 empty tables at the moment. He typed randomly on the computer for a few seconds, frowning as if analyzing complex information. "Unfortunately, sir, all our tables are reserved for the rest of the afternoon. Perhaps if you call tomorrow." The old man remained standing patiently, with his hands clasped behind his back. His eyes scanned every detail of the environment: the table arrangements, the lighting, the staff's posture, the customers' reactions. It was a silent but attentive observation, as if he were mentally recording every element of what he saw. "I can wait a bit," he said simply. "I'm not in a hurry." Ricardo's discomfort grew. Some customers were already whispering among themselves, and he knew his supervisor, Fernando, could appear at any moment. Fernando was a strict man, a former five-star hotel manager, who tolerated no situations that could affect the experience of paying customers. "Sir, the problem is we really don't have an estimate for when a table will free up. Our customers usually stay quite long." Ricardo gesticulated nervously, trying to find a polite way to make the old man leave. It was at that moment that Patricia Montenegro decided to intervene. She called Ricardo with a discreet wave and, when he approached, whispered loud enough for some to hear, "Young man, not to be rude, but don't you have some kind of filter at the entrance? I mean, can just anyone walk in here?" Enrique Montenegro completed his wife's thought. "It's just that we pay a lot precisely to have an appropriate environment, right? We don't want to be difficult, but..." The couple at the corner table, who were sharing the expensive wine, also spoke up. The woman, a 45-year-old plastic surgeon, commented without much effort to lower her voice. "Poor man. It must be some psychiatric problem. My father worked at the psychiatric hospital and said it was common for patients to escape and enter inappropriate places." Her husband, a tax law attorney, added, "The worst part is, it could be dangerous. You never know what's going through these people's heads." The old man remained standing, listening to everything with a serene, almost melancholic expression. His eyes, however, gleamed with a sharp intelligence that contrasted with everyone's perception of him. Ricardo found himself in a delicate situation. The customers were clearly uncomfortable, and he knew his career could be at risk if he didn't resolve the situation quickly. "Sir," he said, trying one last approach, "I really can't offer you a table right now. Can I call you a taxi?"
"No, Chari."
"That won't be necessary, thank you," the old man replied, maintaining his usual calm. The situation was becoming embarrassing for everyone. Some customers completely stopped eating to watch. Waiters exchanged nervous glances. The elegant atmosphere of the restaurant seemed charged with palpable tension. It was then that the kitchen door opened and Chef Antoine Dubois appeared, a 52-year-old Frenchman, considered one of Latin America's most talented chefs. Antoine had worked in Michelin-starred restaurants in Paris and Lyon before accepting the challenge of leading the kitchen at Le Bernardin, São Paulo. Chef Antoine wore his immaculate white chef's jacket and walked with the upright posture characteristic of great French chefs. He was heading towards the Montenegro's table to personally apologize for a slight delay in the main course when his eyes met the figure of the old man standing at the entrance. Antoine stopped abruptly. His expression changed completely, from professional to absolutely shocked. He blinked several times, as if he couldn't believe what he was seeing. His hands, which were holding a small tray of complimentary appetizers, began to tremble slightly. "Mon Dieu!" he murmured in French, before dropping the tray on the nearest table and walking quickly towards the old man. The entire restaurant turned to watch the chef's movements. Customers knew Antoine's reputation. He was known for being extremely strict and rarely left the kitchen to interact with the public. "Monsieur Silva!" Antoine exclaimed, still in shock. "What an honor! What an unexpected honor to have you here." Ricardo, the other staff, and all the customers watched in amazement as the renowned French chef bowed respectfully before the old man in the torn shoes. "Bonjour, Antoine," Mr. Silva replied with a gentle smile.
"How is the business going here?"
"Magnifique, monsieur."
"Magnifique."
Antoine Gesture animatedly.
"But please, forgive me. I didn't know you were coming today. If I had known, I would have prepared something special. I would have." Ricardo felt his legs go weak. "See, chef," he stammered. "Do you know this gentleman?" Antoine looked at Ricardo with an expression of pure disbelief. "Know him? Know him?" His voice echoed through the entire restaurant. "This man is Antonio Silva, the founder and owner of the entire Le Bernardin chain in Brazil. He owns this restaurant. He owns all our jobs." The silence that followed was deafening. Patricia Montenegro dropped her fork on her plate with a metallic clatter that echoed through the room. Enrique choked on his wine. The couple at the corner table were petrified, mouths agape. The waiters instantly turned pale. Ricardo felt his world crumble. His legs began to tremble, and he had to lean on the nearest table to avoid collapsing.
Mr. Silva.
I didn't know. Antonio Silva raised his hand in a gentle gesture to interrupt the apologies.
Don't worry, young man.
It happens. Antoine continued speaking animatedly, explaining to everyone in the restaurant. Monsieur Silva started by washing dishes in a small bistro in Bexiga 40 years ago. He worked 16 hours a day for decades, saved every penny, studied gastronomy at night. He opened the first Lou Bernardin with his own hands. He built this empire from scratch. The customers began to whisper among themselves, now with a completely different tone. The plastic surgeon was visibly embarrassed, avoiding the gaze of her lawyer husband, who in turn couldn't stop looking at his own 1,000 reis Italian shoes. He always said, Antoine continued, addressing the staff, that true elegance is not in the clothes we wear, but in the respect we show to others. That money doesn't make us better people, it just gives us more responsibilities. Antonio Silva walked calmly to the central table, where the Montenegro couple was seated. Patricia couldn't lift her eyes from her plate. "Excuse me," he said politely. "May I sit here for a moment?" Of course, Mr. Silva," Enrique murmured, nervously gesturing for his wife to move to make space. The old man sat down with the same simplicity as always. "You know," he said, addressing the entire restaurant, but speaking in an intimate conversational tone, "I've worn these shoes for over 15 years. My father gave them to me when he died. They were the only good shoes he had. He worked 40 years as a bricklayer to educate his children." The emotion in the room was palpable. Some customers bowed their heads, visibly moved. "I could buy 1,000 reis shoes every day," Antonio continued, "but these remind me of where I came from. They remind me that a person's worth is not in what they own, but in what they do with what they have." Ricardo approached hesitantly, tears in his eyes. "Mr. Silva, I apologize profoundly. There's no justification for what I did. You can fire me, I deserve it." "Ricardo," Antonio said softly, "you are a good employee. I know you are dedicated and competent. But today you learned something important. Never judge a book by its cover. The simplest person who walks in here could be someone who will change your life, or someone who just needs a moment of kindness." Antoine approached with a special dish he had quickly prepared in the kitchen, a porcini mushroom risotto, the owner's favorite dish, served simply, without exaggerated presentation. "What saddens me," Antonio Silva said, accepting the dish with a grateful smile, "is not that you doubted my ability to pay, but that you lost the opportunity to treat another human being with dignity." Patricia Montenegro finally managed to speak, her voice choked. "Mr. Silva, we were horrible."
We don't know what to say.
"You weren't horrible," he replied. "You were human. We all have prejudices. The important thing is to recognize them and work to overcome them." The lawyer from the corner table stood up and walked over to where Antonio was sitting. "Sir," he said, "I've worked with business contracts for 20 years. I've closed deals worth millions. But today I learned more about ethics and humanity in 15 minutes than in my entire career." The plastic surgeon joined her husband. "Mr. Silva, I treat wealthy people every day, people who spend fortunes to change their appearance. But you showed me that true beauty lies in character." Antoine asked for the attention of all the staff. "Do you see? This is the man who built all of this. He could have arrived here in a limousine, wearing a designer suit, demanding reverence. But he chose to come as he always comes, simple, humble, observing how we treat ordinary people." Ricardo wiped away his tears and addressed all the customers. "Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the restaurant, I apologize for what you witnessed today. We guarantee this will never happen again." "Don't apologize," Antonio Silva interrupted. "Today, all of us learned something valuable, including me, who discovered I still have a lot of work to do to educate my employees on the true values that should guide this business." The old man stood up and walked to the entrance, where everything had begun. "I'm leaving now," he announced, "but I want to leave a lesson. The next customer who walks in here, whether rich or poor, well-dressed or shabbily dressed, should be treated with the same respect you would like to receive if they were your children or parents. He addressed Ricardo specifically. Young man, you have potential. Don't let the environment you work in make you arrogant. True class is in lifting others up, not in bringing them down. Antoine accompanied Antonio to the door. Monsieur Silva, when can I prepare a special dinner for you? Next time I come, the old man replied with a mischievous smile. Maybe I'll wear new shoes. That way, you'll have to find other ways to recognize people's worth. When Antonio Silva left the restaurant, everyone remained silent for a few minutes. The atmosphere had completely changed. Customers spoke in lower, more respectful tones. Employees moved with a different posture, more conscious of their responsibilities. Ricardo approached the table where Patricia and Enrique Montenegro were still sitting. Ladies and gentlemen, he said, I'd like to offer you a complimentary dessert. And I promise that, from today onwards, all customers who walk in here will be greeted as if they were Mr. Silva himself. Patricia looked at her husband and then at Ricardo. You know what? I think from today onwards, we'll also treat people differently. Thank you for this lesson. The restaurant returned to normal operations, but something had irrevocably changed. A lesson in humility, respect, and human dignity had been learned by everyone present. And the story of the old man in torn shoes who owned an empire would spread quickly, reminding everyone that appearances truly can be deceiving.
Amazing, isn't it?
This story reminds us that appearances can be deceiving. What would you do if you were in this old man's shoes? Tell me in the comments. And if you liked this twist, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for more mind-blowing content.